Alright, we are back with more NBA coverage, and in this video, I'm going to try to, as briefly as I can, cover all the rest of the action that I watched to round out the end of last year. I'm definitely late to this, but I'll do as best as I can in as quick of a manner as possible to bring about all the action that I watched, along with a few updates that have carried over. So to get straight into it, starting out with Hornets Cavs on December 22nd, for the first game there, man, you had a whole hell of a lot of offense in this one. I mean, as I was looking at, different metrics before the game, both of them had some of the worst defenses in the league, but it allowed both of their dynamic passing attacks to flourish. I mean, for example, like earlier in the game, you had a 20-5 run where Colin Kneppel actually managed to reach the fastest rate to 100 threes in a season ever, beating out Stephen Curry at that point. And it's just been an exceptional rookie season for him. So I wasn't surprised to see that he would have a good output in this game while finishing with another 20-point night to go along with 5 threes on the day. However, the Cavs at every single time were always creeping up, and it really came down to protecting the basketball. For as great as the Hornets offense can be when they're all clicking on all fronts, they are highly turnover prone. And I mean, that's LaMelo Ball's nature. You're going to have the ball in his hands predominantly, so that's bound to happen. It allowed the Cavs to creep back in at every point. Like you had a run near the end of the half to go 13-6 in the Cavs' favor with Donovan Mitchell just banging in a buzzer beater. He did some crazy shots over this period of time too, but that's besides the point. Even with that going down, it would be DeAndre Hunter to take them to the promised land. As for a while there, even though the game looked close, in between the third and the fourth quarter, you had DeAndre Hunter get hit in the face accidentally by Musa Diabate, who happens to have way more value than I thought. In fact, at the time, they showed a graphic stating that essentially he had one of the highest offensive rebound rates in the NBA amongst all centers. While I wasn't really keen on that fact, I suppose that's why he'd remain in for all that time. But they would have to sub him out after that foul, and Hunter also had to get checked back in the locker room for an injury. But once he returned to the court, he just went nuclear. Not only would they have a 16-3 run, but he would also have 8 points in the fourth quarter on just some streaky-ass shooting that opened up the floor for everybody else. I mean, Donovan Mitchell continued his night, and Darius Garland, for one of the first times since his return, was able to generate a wide array of offense for pretty much everybody else on the floor. Ultimately, the Cavs were able to outpace the Hornets and win 139-132, with them shooting an astounding 55.2% from the field and 54.5% from three. In fact, they shot 55, 50, and 100 in terms of shooting splits, as they made all 19 of their free throws. And at that point, even though the Hornets had, some great shooting of their own, just those mistakes came back to bite them in the ass, despite them having a 17-5 advantage in offensive rebounds and an advantage of 14 in overall boards on the night. The Cavs saw Darius Garland go off for 27 and 10 on 9 of 15 shooting with 5 threes, while Donovan Mitchell chipped in 30 points on 10 of 18 shooting with 6 threes, and DeAndre Hunter had a total of 27 points and 5 rebounds off the bench on 9 of 13 shooting. As for the Hornets, Brandon Miller also added 20 points on the night on 8 of 13 shooting with 2 threes. LaMelo Ball had 23 points, 4 rebounds, and 9 assists on 8 of 16 shooting with 6 threes. And Miles Bridges added 17.6 rebounds and 4 assists on 6 of 14 shooting. All right, to move on to the nightcap for that Monday night, we would see the Grizzlies face off against the Thunder, and both teams were severely undermanned. Like, you have legitimately starting rosters full of players on both sides, as they would show on the graphic in this game, at multiple points of time, just out. And, of course, Ja wasn't playing, in this for the Grizzlies, so they were going to be at a disadvantage. We saw what happened to them in the playoffs. The very second that Ja Morant went out of commission and exited that game with what would be a season-ending injury at the time, man, they honestly, it did not start off that bad. They were competitive for a little bit into the first and part of the second quarter, but you know what it is with the Thunder all the time. There will be that point of time in a game where they start to chip away. And you would see that as you would have Lucius Dort and SGA account for 6 and 9 second quarter points respectively during what would be a 20-6 run in that stretch that spaced out the game just enough to give them a commanding lead at halftime. And while they were able to find stretches of good play from their offense, what really hurt the Grizzlies, in my opinion, was the fact that they, for pretty much 5 minutes in the third quarter alone, the opening 5 minutes, they did not make a single field goal. And while they were getting some timely stops on the Thunder, because they honestly didn't shoot the greatest in that game either, they themselves could not generate enough good looks. Some of the routine ones were just misses for them, and that you can't have that. But it's also a testament to the Thunder, again, being willing to turn you over on defense and give you hell on that side of the basketball, even if they themselves aren't making their own shots. I mean, they were able to get back into single-digit territory at times. So it's not like the Grizzlies were completely punked in this game, but after a while, if you're going to have that cold stretch of shooting, you're not going to be able to keep up with a Thunder team like this. And you would kind of see that in this stretch too. A team in the Thunder who have, for the most part, been untouchable this season. Yet, when you have rosters who can match them with their physicality, they are put in a little bit of trouble. And they've actually, since this point in time, yes, they had one of the best starts to the NBA season. They've dropped a few of their last games, but it wouldn't be this one, as they would win 119-103 as far as this game is concerned against Memphis. In this game, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 31 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists, along with 4 steals on 11 of 20 shooting, 3 threes as well. He has really worked to space out his game at times, taking a few more three-point attempts, actually being efficient from down there. And if that is consistent from him, it adds yet another element to what is already a dangerous playing style for him. Jaylin Williams would add 24 points and 6 rebounds on 10 of 20 shooting, and you really didn't need a whole lot of craziness from other people, although A.J. Mitchell, with his 16 points and 9 rebounds in this game, continues to step up immensely for this roster. As for the Grizzlies, not a lot happened per se for them. It did not help that they shot just 41% from the field. But between Cam Spencer, Cedric Coward, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in this game, they did enough to at least keep them within it and competitive for as long as possible. Ultimately, the attrition and the fact that even with them losing a lot of their core guys, the Thunder still have quality players up and down the roster, ultimately allowed them to get the advantage here. Moving on into action from December 23rd and starting out with the Rockets and the Clippers in this game. Over the course of this entire run, I'm not going to lie, the wing play for both teams in terms of Amen Thompson being able to find his stride at points, and also Kawhi Leonard just having himself quite the streak in what has been a chaotic start to the season for him. Of course, he was duped. Steve Ballmer was duped. We ain't forgetting that. Like, that is still ongoing, and people need to understand that. But in terms of on-court production, obviously he needed to return to action. He was still unhealthy to begin the season, and he'd recently come back at this point. Man, he has been on fire. There is honestly no other way I can put it. And while he would gradually get his points, while James Harden would gradually be able in this game to get his own open looks, because the Rockets were just dead set on preventing that from happening for a majority of this game. Man, I will say, goodness gracious, they just found a way. It wasn't looking the prettiest. The Rockets actually were able to get off to a reasonable start. You had KD go off for 11 first quarter points, but Kawhi was matching with 11 first quarter points of his own. And from that point on, it was tough for the Clippers to match Alperen Sengun for a little bit of time in this game. Like, the man is legitimately baby Jokic. And I just, it's as simple as that. However, the Clippers, as the second quarter continued to get underway, they would start to find their footing a little bit. And with forcing a few misses on that other end, they started to pull away from this game. That's the thing with the Rockets. It's like they are still a team that is reliant on just taking away extra possessions via offensive rebounds, because when it comes to spacing the floor, they still have struggled with that. And that would be the case in this third quarter especially, as you would have the Clippers get off to an 11-2 or 11-2-2 run in the third quarter, while Kawhi at this point, I believe, also had like 29 points on 11 shots. He was just automatic, getting to his spot in the mid-range and literally just making everything almost like a robot, like he's back to his old ways in a sense. And I mean, hell, he was even getting to the free throw line. It would become evident in a different Clippers game, and I'll talk about over the course of time, that Kawhi Leonard has actually become a pretty damn good free throw shooter. And I couldn't have seen that coming a few years ago. But nevertheless, the game would get up to as much as 16 before the end of the third quarter for the Clippers, before they just continued to get it going. Yeah, the guys like Kobe Sanders find their footing and get 6 points to start off the fourth quarter before they just ran away with it completely via more Houston turnovers and just subpar offensive play from their side. With that, the Clippers would win 128-108 on that day, with Kawhi Leonard going off for 41 points and 8 rebounds, along with 5 assists. On 16 of 23 shooting with 4 threes, James Harden would have 29 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists on 7 of 14 shooting with 3 threes. And John Collins and Kobe Sanders would have 13 points each, while Chris Dunn also contributed 11 in the starting role. As for the Rockets, Kevin Durant had 22 points on 8 of 15 shooting, while Alperen Sengun had 19 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists on 9 of 16 shooting. Amen Thompson also had 19 points on 7 of 10 shooting, with absolutely no threes attempted, because why would he want to shoot threes? Also chipping in 9 rebounds and 5 assists. Moving on to the nightcap for this game, and man, oh man, where the hell do I start with this fucking game between the Nuggets and the Mavs? Cooper Flagg is learning it. He is fucking learning as we go along. He came into this game setting multiple milestones and having a little heater of his own. It culminated in quite the bout against players who you regard as some of the best in the league, proven champions in Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. And this game, for a while, couldn't have started any better for the Mavericks. They had a fucking 22-6 run coming out in the first quarter, with Najee Marshall putting up 7 first quarter points of his own, and Anthony Davis even getting back to some of his traditional methods as well. He was actually taking mid-range shots in this game and making a portion of them in this for 10 first quarter points of his own. But of course, when you have a team like the Nuggets and you have players like that who just raise every single person around them, it was going to be difficult for a while to keep them down forever. And the Mavericks would try. They put up 41 points in this quarter, yet still had the Nuggets get within 6 before having a run to close it out, with Cooper Flagg again continuing to hit shot after shot after shot, even getting himself a little poster in this game as well. But the real chaos would just take place even more, man. I mean, oh my goodness. Ryan Nembhard also deserves a lot of credit with this, as they would have an 8-0 run, while at a point in this game, Nembhard was a plus 26 box plus minus by himself. And it had been a complete shift in terms of offensive play for a team that in the first stretch of the season was one of the worst relative offenses, if not the worst relative offense in NBA history. As soon as they chose to start him, like, everything just got so much better for this team, and you saw it in this game. But defensively, again, they allowed the Nuggets to linger in this forever, and part of it is the overall ability of those two players. Part of it was the fact that they had, at multiple points, Tim Hardaway Jr. of all people. Even when it looked like the Mavericks were going to pull away, his microwave shooting allowed them to stay in the ball game, along with Cameron Johnson also putting in good work on both sides of the ball. And before you knew it, the Nuggets themselves would have a 47-point third quarter, and that quarter off as well by tying up the ball game. After being down by that much to start it out, after trailing for majority of the game, they worked all the way back to tie it with Bruce Brown, getting possibly the easiest bucket of his life off of a slick Jokic feed. You got into the fourth quarter, and it inevitably went into clutch time, because of course it did. Again, when you have Jokic doing this, in fact, not only would he have 10 points in the third quarter, but he also had 8 assists in the third quarter as well, which is the second most in a single quarter that he's ever had to this point. Yet it would be other players at random points of time just stepping up, making the plays, and putting the onus on themselves to try to space this out for the Nuggets. But once you got in clutch time, you figured that the best guys would come out on both teams and try to get things done. Anthony Davis would have himself a sequence of free throw makes and also a made shot before you would have some quick responses. And above all else, man, even against proven veterans, established guys in the league, it was Cooper Flagg as well, along with Naji Marshall, taking it upon themselves to hit big-time shots in those moments to space this out for the Mavericks. Not enough, though, as Nikola Jokic would get a high percentage look with around 30 seconds left to get this thing within 1. And just the amount of trust the Mavericks have, to the point where you're kind of forcing things as well. Yes, the Nuggets are playing him in such a way to where you're not really willing to give up any other outlet. But for Nembhard to be handling the ball in this situation is pretty bold. While he would miss a tough two-pointer, it gave the Nuggets a chance to get it back. And I was thinking you want to call a timeout, but at that point, sometimes it's just best to play on the flow of a game. And Peyton Watson, I ain't gonna lie, this damn pass from Jokic in the first place was perfect. Watson was wide open in the corner, and he missed in the unluckiest fashion. Like, it rolled right around the rim, man, and it went out. I mean, damn. Because they knew, they drew it up perfectly. You know the collapse is coming Jokic's way. Nobody's expecting Watson to be that wide open in the corner, and nobody's even paying that much attention to him in that situation. It was the right play call, but not enough execution. What a clutch time game this would end up being, though, as the Mavericks would win 131-130 in a game where both teams shot over 57% from the field. Talk about high percentage looks over the entire night. And the Nuggets had 23s of their own for a team that is known to have high percentages in field goal makes. While, last season at least, not even being a team that shot as many three-point attempts in terms of volume. But it kept them going toe stride for stride with the Mavericks in this one. As for the stats here, Cooper Flagg in this game had almost a 33-point triple-double with 9 rebounds and assists on 14 of 21 shooting and 4 threes. Anthony Davis also had 31 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 steals on 12 of 19 shooting with a 3. Najee Marshall added 15 points and 4 rebounds on 6 of 11 shooting, and Ryan Nembhard added 11 points and 7 assists on 5 of 11 shooting as well. As for the Nuggets, man, Jamal Murray had 31 points, 14 assists, and 7 rebounds on 12 of 21 shooting with 3 threes, while Nikola Jokic had 29 points, 14 assists, and 7 rebounds on 12 of 22 shooting with 5 threes. Tim Hardaway Jr. also added 23 points and 2 rebounds on 8 of 13 shooting with 7 threes. Legitimately, a microwave scorer in every sense of the word. There were moments at times where he would do what he does when he starts to feel himself and just take shots outside of the flow of the offense. But honestly, in this game, they needed his shooting to stay alive, and it accounted for a good portion of their made threes. So you live with it here. You understand that things can go terribly wrong when you have that happen. And so you want to be careful in those situations. But safe to say, with the Christmas Day action in mind. I mixed it up. Yeah, no, the Rockets-Clippers game was a nightcap. But honestly, the way the Mavericks and Nuggets game was, man, that should have been the one, to be honest with you. I mean, damn. It was truly a cinematic one. And you'd get a couple of games like that on Christmas Day to transition into that. Now, I didn't watch every single one, so this will probably be one of the briefer portions. But I did catch a few, or at least a couple. I watched the tail end of this Cavs-Knicks game, and man, this shit was chaotic. They mentioned at first that for a while, the Knicks had this monstrous lead, there was a monstrous lead in play, and there was sort of a historical significance of that, as the Cavs were just taking it to them for most of the game, yet when push came to shove, and when they were trailing and down, at this point in time, you had Tyler Kolek get in there and make plays, forcing a damn turnover in this situation off of a challenge that would end up standing. And he also, before that, ended up making a three-pointer before on the next sequence of plays, securing the rebound, getting down the court, and finding an open Mikal Bridges for a 2-point shot. Jalen Brunson would also continue to do what he does best in the clutch. And while Karl-Anthony Towns would have some good intensity on the boards, it still wasn't enough to give them reasonable breathing room, because Donovan Mitchell decided, hey, on a night where he'd already gone off, why not just have a damn crashing dunk into the lane before proceeding to hit some crazy-ass three-point shots. Not only would he have 15 fourth-quarter points, but it came in the weirdest fashion. Like, this damn shot that he made to bring this within one, with about 2 seconds left, was just insane. He literally hesitated as he was trying to shoot, because the goal would be to draw a foul here and make the shot. But he wasn't able to do it. They weren't biting on it. He hesitates. And in one swift move, fades away, bangs in the fucking shot. In the whole stadium, man, you could hear a pin drop in that fucking arena. Everybody was scared about this. But ultimately, the Knicks, with just one Karl-Anthony Towns free throw make, would get enough done to come out with the win. Even after this, it's like, I don't know. Man, it was a tough game to grind out. But the Knicks, those are the kinds of games that will define an entire season if you can continue to keep these things going. For the numbers, Jalen Brunson had 34 points, 4 assists, and 2 steals on 10 of 25, shooting with 6 threes, While off the bench, Jordan Clarkson had 25 points on 9 of 17 shooting and 5 threes. Tyler Kolek had 16 points on 5 of 9 shooting with 4 threes. And Josh Hart had 15 points on 5 of 9 shooting with 2 threes to go along with 5 rebounds and 3 assists. Karl-Anthony Towns also had an 11-point, 14-rebound double-double. And Tyler Kolek also had a 9 assists. Just crazy to see from him. Like, who would have thought, man? It's just crazy to think about. Because you get Malcolm Brogdon in the offseason, and you think he, as an older veteran, is probably going to be the leader of the second unit before he retired. And again, that was his own decision. So there's not much you can do about it. Tyler Kolek is a guy that they did have the draft rights to, but he'd been spending time in the G League for a while. He wasn't really getting an opportunity like that. And they have, as the season has gone on this year, they've started to expand their playbook for him and give him more playing time off the bench as a guy who can serve that exact same role as a younger player who can also shoot the 3 ball. And to be a floor general like that, to have that at your disposal, while you also have a man in Jordan Clarkson who can be a microwave scorer himself, if the Knicks can consistently get this from their bench, man, they are a danger to everybody in the Eastern Conference. And again, with it being a little weaker, they already are. But, this is what they've been waiting for since Jalen Brunson has been there. Because the idea has been to put it all on his shoulders. And while, to an extent, he can do it clearly, we all saw it in the damn Eastern Conference Finals against the Pacers, man. We saw how much of a toll it took on him. If you have a guy like Kolek and Clarkson being able to alleviate that burden, even if it's for just a little bit of time, so he can rest up and do what he does best in the clutch like he did in this game, man, you best believe they are on path to a potential championship. That's the idea when they go out and get Mike Brown after firing Tom Thibodeau, even with making the Eastern Conference Finals in the first place. As for the Cavs, Donovan Mitchell had 34 points, 6 assists, and 7 rebounds on 12 of 25 shooting with 4 threes. Darius Garland had 20 points and 10 assists on 7 of 14 shooting with 3 threes, and Jordan Tyson had 16 points off the bench along with 6 rebounds on 7 of 11 shooting. They shot 52.3% from the field, the Cavs did. Yet, all them damn offensive rebounds came back to help the Knicks get another win. That's not anything new, I suppose. Alright. For some of the other games here, the Spurs, yes, those Spurs, would get the better of the Thunder again, winning this game 117-102, even with Wembanyama still coming off the bench in this game. He didn't really have to do much. You got help from just about everybody else. De'Aaron Fox continued to carry the load with 29 points on 12 of 19 shooting with 3 threes, while Stephon Castle had 19 points and 7 assists on 8 of 11 shooting. Victor Wembanyama off the bench had 19 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 assists on 6 of 12 shooting with 3 threes, and Harrison Barnes also chipped in 15 points on 5 of 12 shooting with 3 threes of his own. It is just, it's crazy. The entire conversation shifted around the Thunder with this loss because they had been on that long of a winning streak. They dominated the competition like that, and this would mark the 3rd loss to the Spurs in just a matter of around a week and some change. So the Spurs, even with me titling one of my other videos about how the Timberwolves can have the Thunder's number at points, the Spurs are that exact same way too. And they have the vault, just like the fucking Thunder do, in terms of the ability to draft better talent if they so choose and get even better in the long run. Both young, hungry, gritty teams. And while the Thunder were able to get it done last season, they are starting to be challenged. Even if they do still sit atop, the Western Conference at this point, it ain't as easy as they thought it was going to be. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in this game would have 22 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists on 7 of 19 shooting, which, crazy to consider, that might be a down game for him. But I digress. Isaiah Hartenstein had 13 points and 12 rebounds, along with 3 assists on 5 of 7 shooting. And you can't have a game where you have Chet Holmgren account for just 10 points, even if he got a double-double with 12 rebounds, and then have Alex Caruso and Jaylin Williams combined to shoot 8 of 26 from the field and 3 of 14 from the three-point line and expect to win a game. Like, this is where sometimes that terrible shooting can undo all of your progress. Like, I'm sure that the Thunder had stretches where they played great defense, but with the Spurs being able to shoot this well from the field, there's no way that the Thunder were going to last without being able to stop pretty much any and everything from San Antonio's side while shooting 38.9% from the field and 25% from deep themselves. It's just not a recipe for success. And, even those comments were made after the game, just, hinting at the notion that, okay, they needed to be better as a team. And I can't be surprised at that statement. Moving on to the Mavericks and the Warriors. Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson battling it out again. With Cooper Flag also having, some good work done in this game as well. But the Warriors would ultimately get the win as a 126-116 outcome. Stephen Curry would have 23 points and 3 rebounds on 6 of 18 shooting. D'Anthony Melton would have 16 points and 3 rebounds and assists on 5 of 14 shooting with 2 threes. Jimmy Butler III had 14 points along with Al Horford, and Brandon Podziemski added 13 points as well. As for the Mavericks, Cooper Flag led the way with 27 points on 13 of 21 shooting, while Brandon Williams, who, we'll get to that in a second, talking about one of their next games. He had 26 points in this outing, along with 3 rebounds and assists on 9 of 12 shooting with a 3, and Najee Marshall and P.J. Washington both accounted for 14 points in this one, with P.J. Washington also adding 10 rebounds on the night. As for this next game, the Rockets and the Lakers, Lakers got their asses kicked, to the point where J.J. Redick was prompted to say a number of crazy things, going at the star players, going at their effort on defense, and even saying that he couldn't do another 53 games of this eventually. And you can understand the frustration there, especially when you consider that the Rockets were able to win this game despite shooting just 33% from the three-point line. But they got dominated in the paint. Lakers got sloppy with some of their offense and turned the ball over. And on the boards, oh my gosh, they lost that battle 48-25. Like, you gotta get a fucking rebound at some point, my nigga. Damn. Luka Doncic had 25 points and 7 assists in this game on 9 of 17, shooting with 3 threes. LeBron had 18 points and 5 assists on 7 of 13 shooting, and Austin Reeves had 12 points and just a single assist and rebound on 5 of 8 shooting with 2 threes. He did not get to play an extensive amount of time because it was detailed by Shams Charania and other sources that he would suffer a grade 2 left gastrocnemius strain and would be out for at least the next 4 weeks after this one. Now, I'm not a medical expert. I don't know what that is, but I will say that Austin Reeves earlier in the season was dealing with a calf injury of some severity. And I would have to believe that this strain is somewhere in that general area of his body. So it's terribly unfortunate that that happened, but even still, this kind of separation in the score, I don't know if Austin Reeves would have been able to remedy all of the problems that flared up for Los Angeles in this game. As for the Rockets, Amen Thompson had 26 points and 7 rebounds along with 5 assists on 12 of 19 shooting. Kevin Durant had 25 points and 8 assists along with 2 blocks on 8 of 14 shooting with 4 threes. And Jabari Smith Jr. had 16 points on 6 of 9 shooting with 2 threes to go along with 7 rebounds. Oberon Shengen also added in 14 points and 12 rebounds before fouling out. Reed Shepherd also had 13 points off the bench on 5 of 10 shooting along with Tari Eason. And, man, this game right here. Because if you thought that you had already seen one masterclass game from Nikola Jokic in that stretch, man, you could not have thought you were going to be in for what would happen on Christmas night with this man. I tell you, man. I fucking tell you, bro. Like, this game right here was one of the best of the season. And, again, people could say that's recency bias because I would still say that having double overtime games between the Thunder and Rockets and Pacers on back-to-back nights would probably command a little more respect, even if they were some of the first games of the season. But this is right up there with it. I mean, Nikola Jokic, every time he sees Rudy Gobert, you know what time it is, bro. The man already had 18 points in the first quarter. And Anthony Edwards would have a hot first quarter himself with 14. But the entire narrative around his game is that for a while, it looked as though he was banged up. Like, on a play where he was falling to the floor after a shot attempt, he came up holding his shoulders so gingerly, and it affected him for a while. Like, he just was not as aggressive as you would expect him to be as an overall force for this Timberwolves team for a number of the next few quarters. And it hurt the Timberwolves immensely. They desperately needed it. Because despite all of this, the game was close. Even with the Nuggets going on a 17-4 run at some point in time, the Timberwolves were not that far out of it. We always say it's a game of runs, and before you knew it, they ended off at halftime being down by just 2 points, with Julius Randle hitting a 3 to even tie it up. So they were in the flow of things, but they needed an ability, an opportunity to tremendously punch back. And little did they know that would happen with the help of some of the defensive play from both Rudy Gobert and even Dante DiVincenzo, despite having an off shooting night, along with the help from Bones Highland on the other end. They were able to, the Timberwolves, go on essentially a 14-3 run at that point, despite them being down for so much time. And before you knew it, we got into the fourth quarter, man, it just got even closer. Like, at this point, we started off the clutch time period, and they were down by 13 points. They battled all the way back as Anthony Edwards was able to find his shot once again. And in between this and the rest of regulation, he took it over his damn self. He would go off for 13 fourth quarter points, including a number of his own in what would be a personal run. And as the Nuggets were still trying to come away with the win here, Anthony Edwards would just not quit at all. Like, he was making shot after shot after fucking shot. And even with these Nikola Jokic free throws, with just about 3 seconds left, everyone in that building knew where the ball was headed. And Anthony Edwards got in a pass near the sideline, turned around with a fading shot out of bounds on Jamal Murray, and cashed it in for the tie to send it to overtime. And it continued. They ripped off a 9-0 run, essentially, in the overtime period to belt out to a 124-115 lead with just about 3 minutes left. It looked like the Timberwolves had it in the bag. And then the two-man game just got active between Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. The bread and butter for that system over the last few years would just take over completely. And while you would have Tim Hardaway Jr. hit a shot, it was all about Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray in this quarter period, if you want to call it that. they would single-handedly allow the Nuggets to themselves, in this point, go on what would be a 21-4 run, despite having Anthony Edwards account for 15 of the last 17 Minnesota points at that period of time. Like, it was crazy. All the hot percentage looks. And Jamal Murray even hit a dagger, potentially, three-point shot over Anthony Edwards to get his quick get back. It was wild. And a lot of it could be attributed to fouls, but ultimately, the Nuggets would win 142-138 in an absolute fucking barn burner. It was just truly a hell of a night for both guys, to the point where Anthony Edwards was ejected as well. I guess after getting 2 Ts and getting 1 technical from hitting the ball as he made a clutch time shot to try to keep things as close as possible. You just can't do that in that situation, so I suppose that's reasonable. But man, he still fought like crazy to keep them in this game. So you have to give him respect there. But as for the overall numbers, Nikola Jokic in this game. Get ready for this shit, man. On a night where you had all this action going on between the NBA and the NFL, you got a perfect nightcap. Because this nigga would put up 56 points, 16 rebounds, and 15 assists on 15 of 21 shooting with 4 threes and 22 free throws. In fact, his 20 overtime points by himself in that period is, I think, among the highest, if not the single highest mark in an overtime period for a single player in NBA history. It was crazy. They could not get him out of his rhythm. He was just playing the game that he plays to the highest possible level. And they could not get him unfazed and uncomfortable enough to switch it up at any one point of time. Not only do you get that aspect of it, but it would also be the third highest total points scored on Christmas Day, behind both Bernard King and Wilt Chamberlain. He is also one of few players to have multiple triple-doubles within Christmas Day games as well. So, man. And you're up there with Oscar Robertson and Russell Westbrook in this. It's like, bro, he's legitimately one of the best to be doing it right now. And I can't put him into any type of conversation. You want him to finish out the totality of his career, but man, bro, he is on that path right now. As for Jamal Murray, he himself would have a 35-point night with 10 assists of his own on 12 of 32 shooting. As disproportionate as that may seem, he shot 50% from the three-point line while hitting 9 threes. And they needed every single one of them to win this. It was truly a masterclass. Same for Anthony Edwards. You know, despite him going on a pretty heavy scoreless drought for a time, he had 44 points and 6 rebounds, along with 3 assists and steals in this game, on 14 of 25 shooting with 5 threes. And Julius Randle in this game flanked them with 32 points and 6 assists, along with 7 rebounds on total of 22 shooting. Jaden McDaniels also added 21 points and 4 rebounds and assists on 9 of 12 shooting as well. Truly a battle between some of the best in the league. Like, they did the right thing by making that the final game on Christmas Day. I truly was excited to watch that go down. And to think that at that point you still had the Chiefs-Broncos game going on. But again, after that, that ended, so, you got most of it in at around the halftime period. That was just truly a masterpiece to watch. I have no other word to say about it. What, you just can't put some of those things like that into words. It's insane. Moving on to the 76ers and Bulls on that Friday. And honestly, this game was defined by the role players stepping it up big time for both teams, especially when you look at the fact that, Tyrese Maxey was struggling, Coby White was struggling, Josh Giddey was getting clamped down by the 76ers defense. So you had to find other ways for people to score. And in this game, across all of it, it was Zach Collins going off for 10 points in the first quarter. It was Trey Jones getting downhill and making contested layups at the cup. Something I would never expect from Trey Jones in my lifetime. It was happening in real time. And it gave the Bulls a fighting shot. Not to mention Aya Dosunmu and his defense in this one, along with Buzelis and his defense. It felt like that man was blocking everything, or at least altering the shot trajectory on a number of different points to keep that emphasized for Chicago in this game. And they had a lead for quite a while. They would briefly lose it for a second in what would just be a truly defensive second quarter before ultimately regaining it throughout the course of the rest of the game. And you love to see that when you can have players, even if your core guys are struggling, step up and make the shots they need to make. But it's not uncommon for the Bulls, especially at the time when the graphic stated during the game that they were second in the league in bench points. So, you understand that you're going to get some quality play from those guys. The starters just have to do enough to keep you within the flow of things. And man, when this fourth quarter got around, it came. It did not help the 76ers in this case that they missed a grave number of shots in a row and just had some some of their defense is just too sloppy. Like, even with Trey Jones being able to get some contested shots, there were others where, down the stretch, you're giving up way too good of a look right now for this to be as close as it is. You can't just give them free buckets like this. And before you knew it, it was Jalen Smith getting backdoor for a dunk over Embiid's head. It was Trey Jones getting the damn reverse. It was Coby White getting the three-point shot. It just happened in a flurry. Before you knew it, it was a fucking 8-point run that the damn 76ers gave up at this point. And Jalen Smith himself had 9 fourth quarter points. Yet another player, even in the absence, supposedly, of production from the starting caliber players, they were getting it done on their end. And you couldn't really say the same thing for the 76ers in this one, who were reliant on their starters contributing. To their credit, Joel Embiid did, and Tyrese Maxey, after a hell of a struggle, would start to find his rhythm at points of time, but by that point, it was too late. The Bulls would win 109-102, and in this one, for the Bulls here, it was truly by committee. Nobody had greater than 15 points in this game, but Trey Jones and Zach Collins literally led the way with that output, respectively. Coby White had 13 points on terrible shooting, but again, enough, more than enough, as a team, as a unit, to get the job done ultimately, despite shooting just 34% from the three-point line, and despite also just truly having rough spurts of offense overall. As for the 76ers, Tyrese Maxey in this game had 27 points and 8 assists, but on 9 of 24 shooting. Paul George had 15 points and 12 rebounds along with 5 assists. But man, there were chances for him to hit some clutch buckets down the stretch, and he just didn't. Even with shooting 4 of 9 from 3, though. VJ Edgecombe had 10 points. And Joel Embiid had 31 points and 5 rebounds on 10 of 19 shooting along with 2 threes. But I ain't gonna lie, same would be the case for the next 76ers game that I watched. There were just moments where it's like, if you are him, you're dealing with all these injuries in your knees and everything, and they are a shot at this point. And for whatever reason, he decides to, at the worst possible moment, try to get vertical with other people. And it's like he falls flat on his ass. He's just struggling to get back up and do anything. And it's like, why put yourself in that scenario when you are kind of fragile right now? I couldn't understand that for the life of me. But you know what? It is what it is. Moving on to this game, though. And like I mentioned, the Clippers would face off against the Trailblazers. The red hot Kawhi Leonard would maintain that a little bit in this game. But he had to go toe-to-toe with Deni Avdija and Shaedon Sharpe in this one, getting their own buckets at will, especially when you look at Avdija. The man is an all-star this season. He has taken a superstar ascent, and I don't know if anybody could have predicted that after he moved from Washington, but the further we get into this season, it's looking like the Wizards were holding him down and back from what he could truly turn into. Part of it is the fact that he has gotten to the free throw line at a good rate, but he's truly been a guy that they can rely on at times as a point forward. It's not always efficient. He did have 7 turnovers in this game, and with the Clippers being able to force those turnovers, that would be the deciding factor in this game over the course of time. It's very clear that the Blazers do need a true point guard back, and you could get that in Scoot Henderson whenever he returns. But for a while, they were hanging in this one. And this is despite the fact that they were missing out on Jeremy Grant, who, as I saw and didn't hear about at all, he's out for the rest of the season with an Achilles injury. They're still out here competing like this. They got off to a 12-3 run to start out the game. They had Avdija go off for 11 first quarter points and Shaedon Sharpe go off for 8. Their game plan, more so than the Rockets, was to let anybody else, but James Harden beat them. Anybody else. And that is what got them off to a slower start. The Blazers had a 10-point advantage after this quarter, but for a while they didn't really have that kind of guy for them to take the pressure off of James Harden at that point. And the only way that could happen is if you were hitting shots. Again, Kawhi Leonard, it would happen gradually for him. And maybe that's what you want if you are the Clippers at that point. You know that Kawhi Leonard can be a weapon for you. But to just constantly rely on spamming mid-range shots his way from time to time, that can get a little predictable. So, you want to know about something unpredictable, huh? How about Donovan Clingan and Brook Lopez in this game going back and forth with 3-pointers against each other? I will never get accustomed to Donovan Clingan spacing out and taking 3-point shots. He was actually hitting the fucking shit. But it would be Brook Lopez for the Clippers to open everything up for them. And I mean everything. Not only would this be a 6-point half time score in the Trailblazers' favor here, but Brook Lopez himself would go off for 11 points in the second quarter, and his 3-point shooting just would not stop. It would not stop. He was making any kind of 3-pointer you could ask him to. Just catch, shoot, and let the Splash Mountain do what he does best from beyond the 3-point line. The man himself would single-handedly help en route to what would be in the third quarter a 23-6 run for Los Angeles. And at that point, they would not look back from that deficit whatsoever. Like, Brook Lopez was just unconscious. The man had hit like 9 threes at a point in time. And you understand that Brook Lopez has completely reinvented himself as a player. We understand that he was more of a post scorer in Brooklyn. But still, from that standpoint, to what he was doing at Milwaukee. And now this, a night where it was all about him. And through him, everything else came to full form for the Clippers. Truly, they never looked back in this one. The Blazers did not have another chance to really make things as close as they wanted. Like, the Clippers at that point, they got all they needed. And at the perfect moment, they got Kawhi Leonard and James Harden to strike in the last few minutes of the game to space it out and give the Clippers the 119-103 victory. In this game, Kawhi Leonard had 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists on 7 of 20 shooting. but he had 12 makes on 12 attempts at the free throw line. In fact, coming into this game, and as it still stands as of the recording of this video, his current free throw percentage is the highest in a single season in NBA history and would remain as such if it stands. Mind you that the record is 98.1% set by Jose Calderon. Kawhi Leonard is shooting greater than that at like 98.5%. And who would have thought that? For a man coming out of San Diego State that was as raw as a prospect can get. And it took them a while to figure out all those hitches in his shooting game. And now he's out here in year 13, 14, hitting that well at the stripe. I could not have imagined that. But he would still be outdone by what Brook Lopez did in this game. 31 points, 5 rebounds, and 9 threes. 9 of 14 from deep. Like, he got a bunch of open looks. He got some contested looks at time to time. But it's like, damn, you're not going to put a body on a man that is shooting that well from beyond the arc. You deserve to have him continue to light your asses up. And James Harden in this game had 34 points and 6 assists on 10 of 17 shooting with 3 threes in this game as well. As for the Trailblazers, Deni Avdija had 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists as well on 10 of 18 shooting, while Tumani Kimura had 20 points and 3 rebounds on 6 of 16 shooting with 5 threes. Shaedon Sharpe also had 16 points and 4 rebounds after cooling down a little bit throughout the rest of the game, which did hurt the Trailblazers as well. Caleb Love has also been an interesting player for them, as he would get 14 points off the bench on 5 of 10 shooting, and Robert Williams III would return in this game after dealing with an extensive amount of injuries over the course of the entire time. But they are not relevant anymore. He's back for good, and he would pitch in 12 rebounds as far as this game is concerned. So that's good to see. All right. So moving on from that action into the action that I watched on that Monday night between the Cavs and the Spurs to start things out there. And dude, well, this was crazy. I mean, it went about as well as it could have for the Spurs for a while. You had 9 points in the first quarter from Stephon Castle. You had a 16-3 run as the game continued to progress, even with DeAndre Hunter also matching that with 7 first quarter points as well. It was looking as though they could space things out, and they started to have some pretty good play from Victor Wembanyama, who would actually, in this game, get his starting role back after being on a minutes restriction for a while. So that would help them immensely, and it would give them a little bit of distance here. But you still had in this game Jarrett Allen play some sound defense and also get some mid-range shots going as well, which I didn't expect a whole lot of. But you also had them focus heavily on just spreading it around. It was unconventional to say the least. But for a while in this game, Donovan Mitchell was not an X factor, and you could argue that he never was one as far as this game is concerned. The Spurs were selling out as much as they possibly could to stop him. And through the first 3 quarters of this game, he had just 5 points on terrible shooting. And you'd think at that point, when you're limiting a scorer of Donovan Mitchell's caliber, you'd have a much greater lead at this point. Not to mention when you consider what Victor Wembanyama was out here still doing as a player that he is, and how the Spurs offense was on seemingly a good path for most of this game. Yet, as the third quarter can do sometimes, there would be a slight momentum shift. They got all-around contributions from everybody. You would have some work done from Sam Merrill. You would have Jordan Tyson go off for 9 points on what would be an overall 18-4 run in between the end of the third and the fourth quarter, as the Spurs would be succumbing to turnovers in this one. Like, that was the main thing for them. They got sloppy with the basketball. And against a set defense where they did not, have the luxury of just forcing Wembanyama out in the paint, although they were able to get some looks at points in this game, with Wembanyama being distracted enough to open up a path for Jarrett Allen to score. When you can get out in transition and you can avoid all of that, it does wonders for you. And they took great advantage of the non-Wembanyama minutes as well, going right at Luke Kornet and picking on him in multiple ways. And ultimately, it gave the Cavs the lead after a while, and while they continued to stretch out what would be an advantage of his greatest 10 at this point, that streak from the Spurs just would not really come back to help them in any way whatsoever. And with that, the Cavs would win 113-101 in this game. I'm telling you, you would never think before this moment that they could win a game without Donovan Mitchell going off like this. He would only finish the game with 10 points. His shooting didn't get that much better, but he did have 5 points in the fourth quarter. Fair enough. This game was about Jarrett Allen and what he was able to do in the mid-range and in the painted area on both sides of the basketball. He had 27 points and 10 rebounds in this game on 11 of 21 shooting. That's pretty fucking good. And to think that the Cavs won this game with the struggles that they've had this season, while having Jarrett Allen lead them in scoring, that's a great turn of events for them to see. Evan Mobley had 16 points and 7 rebounds on 7 of 13 shooting. Darius Garland had 15 points and 11 assists along with 5 rebounds on 5 of 13 shooting. And DeAndre Hunter and Jordan Tyson would both add 11 points on the night. As for the Spurs, Victor Wembanyama had 26 points and 14 rebounds on 7 of 16 shooting with 2 threes. Stephon Castle had 15 points, 8 assists, and 4 rebounds on 5 of 13 shooting. And De'Aaron Fox had 14 points on 4 of 13 shooting to go along with 3 assists and a steal. And on to the nightcap for this particular day in basketball, you would have the Mavericks face off against the Trailblazers with even more exceptional wing play from both Cooper Flagg and Deni Avdija in this game. However, the main thing that'll catch your eye is the fact that Brandon Williams was out here legitimately thugging out buckets. They mentioned at multiple points, because they had their on the bench segment again for Amazon, how Brandon Williams had been training with Kyrie Irving. And I didn't think much of it until I saw this nigga taking multiple contested layups straight to the bucket at the Summit against guys like Donovan Clingan, against guys like Tamani Kimura, against guys like Deni Avdija, against guys like Robert Williams III. He was hitting some tough-ass layups in this game. And not to mention the fucking handle that he was possessing as well. I was truly like, what the fuck is going on? He even threw down a dunk, for crying out loud. The shit was crazy. And that was something that ended up being really unexpected in this game from my watch of this thing. But overall, you got a really fun game here between two teams that, even with the Mavericks have been, even though the Mavericks have been struggling to start out the year, they've been starting to find their footing. And for the Trailblazers, they've been competitive for the most part. They are still, not a team, in the top of the Western Conference, but they're right in the conversation when it comes to playing rosters. And they are just truly a fun team to watch. So I'm not surprised that they were able to get out to a start here where they had another 40-plus point quarter with Caleb Love, the Arizona, North Carolina product himself, just continuing to be the streaky fucking shooter that he is, man. Oh my gosh. He, at multiple points in this one, himself, dude, was just being an engine from the three-point line for that Trailblazers offense. And when you consider how close this game was, it helped them tremendously. But the Mavericks would have their own, kind of runs as well, including some work from Daniel Gafford in the post. He himself would have 10 first quarter points. Just taking it right against Donovan Clingan and having some post moves in the fucking duffel bag unloaded at will, just because. They'd also have a 12-3 run at some point that kind of got them back into the game a little bit, even after what would be such a tremendous start to the game for the Blazers. It was only a 12-point game at halftime. All things considered, that wasn't the worst thing in the world, but defense would have to come through at some point if the Mavericks wanted to get back into this, because to just go shot for shot with them wasn't working. They would get a stretch of that in this third quarter, and you would have Cooper Flagg and Brandon Williams continue to take it straight to the fucking defense in the paint, grinding out points, and ultimately getting this thing within single digits. You had them get down to as much as 4 points with Klay Thompson showing to you, proving to you, he's not fucking washed. Making a pretty cool circus shot for essentially the buzzer beater at the end of the third quarter to bring it within that score. And hey, they continued a 7-0 run at that point of time. So it was going to be a spicy fourth quarter. Spicy it was. It all goes back to Caleb Love, man. Fucking 12 points in this quarter. Just a lot of catch and shoot, but he also had plays where he was able to get to the rim and get his own buckets, even after losing a little bit of a handle on what was almost a turnover. He got it right back, hit the damn shot anyways. It was crazy. However, it remained close, especially when you looked at the fact that they could not guard Max Christie down the stretch. It was back and forth. You did have guys like Najee Marshall and Daniel Gafford give them leads at points with more contested 2-point play in clutch time. But it would be Max Christie with an overall 11 points in the fourth quarter to really bring home what could have been the victory. They had a 1-point lead with about a minute and 9 seconds left. But man, it was Caleb Love and Shaedon Sharpe via free throws to ultimately give them the win. And that's despite them having good looks. This final shot, this final play was such a good look for Klay Thompson. Man, such a good look for him. Najee Marshall originally missed, but you know what? They got the ball back afterwards, and it was so damn close. It was so fucking close. That game had a high chance of going to overtime. But ultimately, through it all, with what would be a 7-2 overall run, the Trailblazers would eke out a 125 to 122 victory. And in this game, Deni Avdija had nearly a 27-point triple-double with 11 assists and 9 rebounds. In fact, at that point, his 27 20-point games were the third most in the league. Shaedon Sharpe had 24 points and 5 assists on 9 of 23 shooting with 2 threes. Caleb Love had 24 points off the bench with 3 rebounds on 8 of 15 shooting 6 threes as well. And Donovan Clingan hit 2 more 3-pointers to go along with an overall 18 points and 11 rebounds on 8 of 10 shooting. It's a pretty high percentage if you ask me. As for the Mavericks, man, Max Christie had 25 points, 5 assists, and also contributed 5 threes on 8 of 12 overall shooting. Brandon Williams had 22 points off the bench. Just, seriously, I didn't see that coming. On 8 of 12 shooting. No 3 attempts at all. Just straight layups and circus shots in the paint. And more often than not, he was converting on them motherfuckers. It was crazy to see. Najee Marshall and Daniel Gafford both had 17 points, while Daniel Gafford also had 10 points, or 10 rebounds, for a double-double. It was more of a struggle game for both Ryan Nembhard and Cooper Flagg. Nembhard would be held scoreless, while it took a while for Cooper Flagg to really find his shot in this game. He did still finish with 15 points, 8 assists, 3 steals, and 6 rebounds on 6 of 20 shooting. And Klay Thompson also added 3 threes and 14 points on the night. And then for the Tuesday action to round it off, man, you had a hell of a fucking match against the damn Grizzlies and the 76ers that went all the way to overtime. And man, the main thing about this one, there are a number of things. First of all, Ja Morant and Joel Embiid. Yes, we're going to start there, and it's kind of cliche because they're both regarded as the best player, the marquee player on their team, although you could argue that Tyrese Maxey's taken that over for the 76ers this season. But, man, they got back. Like, you want to always talk about, vintage this, vintage that. Man, they actually did exactly what fans would usually expect them to do. Every single way that you would expect those guys to traditionally score the basketball, generate offense for guys around them, they were both doing that. To what would be an exceptional night for both guys. As you would have Ja Morant just continuing to have that little stop-start motion, getting defenders on his back hip, and having the float game activate as another defender is trying to deflect the ball out of the air. Cashed in a number of those. Had the pick and roll game going, and it allowed him to get multiple good looks for himself on open shots. In fact, a few down the stretch of the game on a flurry of points for him in the fourth quarter when looking at the flow of things. And then the athletic ability that he possesses just kind of catches you off guard to a point where he is scoring from damn near any and every angle onto what would be a hell of a night for him. Same for Joel Embiid. Whether it was him getting it done in the post and getting a few dunks to go at times, man, even if the athleticism is not always the same with him, the touch, the ability to impose his own will with his sheer strength on the offensive end, it looked like it was returning to form for him. And you have to appreciate that from both guys. Although I will say that, there was a sequence in there where he tried to fucking self-alley-oop to himself, okay? And he fell straight on his back, struggled to get up, and needed to be assisted by multiple guys. At the very least, he was able to finish out the game. But I'm like, if you are in that situation, you're dealing with that, and you're trying to go for something that fucking flashy, like, relax, dude. Relax. They don't need you to get hurt like that. Even with this being the focus for those two guys, man, you have to look everywhere else. This was just truly a great game. One that you could also argue is in a game of the year conversation. Because you would have that from those two guys. But you also had Tyrese Maxey start out this game with 12 first quarter points. As the Grizzlies also, with the help of Cedric motherfucking Coward in this game, with him being on double-double watch for most of the time, would also hold a lead for a while up until the 76ers were just kind of snatching it back at times. No one really held on to a lead for that much time. It was just back and forth, grit and grind fucking play. Up to the point where you even had Tyrese Maxey cash in a damn double clutch 3-point buzzer beater to tie up the ball game at halftime. That's how competitive this shit was. One thing that did end up hurting the Grizzlies and what would end up being a loss, though, is turnovers. At a time, they gave up 11 damn turnovers to just 4 for the 76ers. And with what would be a 15-4 run on their end, you figured that this was going to get closer again. VJ Edgecombe in this game would be responsible for a lot on both sides of the ball because he is a freak fucking athlete, while also possessing some pretty good basketball IQ for him to just be a fucking 20-year-old and a rookie. And that would become evident as this run continued. And then we got into the fourth quarter, and he would be responsible for a number of different plays. Silent hustle plays on the defensive end, absolute verticality on the offensive end. You got everything you wanted from there. And the 76ers were able to get a little bit of distance, and ironically enough, in non-Cedric Howard minutes. Like, bro, when you see how this man was playing this fucking game, bro, he's a similar kind of player in that, man, while you're not expecting him to come in and do this kind of stuff for Memphis, bro, he's had a great impact on this team. In the same way that VJ Edgecombe has for the 76ers. And they kind of do it in different ways, but the way you saw Cedric Howard run the fucking floor, like he grabs the rebound and goes coast to coast by himself, gets up and gets the crowd hyped up on a fucking monster dunk, just punching that shit right down in the paint. The sound play and basketball IQ that he possesses and the overall hustle that he has in his game, man, it has already carried this Grizzlies team very far. And it gave them yet another weapon to deploy in a game that would ultimately be marked by overall star players rising up in the big moments to make things happen. You literally saw Ja Morant go off with just doing what he traditionally does as a scorer, predominantly in the paint, but also getting a few three-pointers here and there occasionally. The man went off for 18 points in the fourth quarter, and by himself, as the 76ers were up by 4, he himself not only got the damn two-pointer to get him within 2, he also tied up the game by himself. And ultimately, they tried to battle it out for the final shot, but it would be a tough miss for Santi Aldama to send them into overtime. And it just continued, man. Shooter shot. Believe me, shooter shot. And VJ Edgecombe in this game would not only himself, after having a pretty cold night from his standpoint in the first 3 quarters, he had a combined 19 points in the fourth quarter and overtime. They came into this game with a graphic essentially stating that he had been 12 for 20 in the clutch in terms of shots. And at that point, with all the focus on Joel Embiid, with all the focus on Tyrese Maxey, he was able to, at multiple points, get open looks from the three-point line because they were converging all towards Tyrese Maxey on what would be the final play of the game offensively for Philadelphia. And it left VJ Edgecombe essentially with a free shot at the top of the key. Ja Morant's there to try to watch him, and he himself had 6 points in overtime as well. So, again, a monster night for him. You're not trusting that Edgecombe can hit that shot. You're going to dare the rookie to shoot. You dared the rookie to shoot with him having a pretty good stroke for most of the year. Despite me being told, hey, he didn't have a three-point shot coming out of college. So the man did what he did in the clutch this season, and he hit the game-winning shot to give the 76ers the 139-136 victory. I do very much like them giving Cedric Howard the three-point shot. But ultimately, it missed, barely missed. But Philadelphia ain't supposed to care about that. This was just truly fucking stacked. And again, this is a game where this game, for this Tuesday night, should have been a nightcap. Like, you got everything you wanted out of this game, man. You got timely defensive plays. You got a load of offense. It was that kind of game, bro. Tyrese Maxey in this had 34 points and 12 assists on 13 of 21 shooting with 4 threes. Joel Embiid had 34 points as well, along with 10 rebounds and 8 assists on 11 of 28 shooting. And 11 free throw makes at the line. VJ Edgecombe had 25 points and 6 rebounds, along with 4 assists on 10 of 21 shooting with 5 threes on 50% shooting. And Paul George added 17 points as well, although he shot 6 of 17 from the field. As for the Grizzlies, man, Ja Morant had 40 points in this game on 16 of 22 shooting without a three-point make. and 8 free throws. Just truly a performance from him that might inspire a little bit of hope once more in what could be for this Memphis team, despite all the noise that's gone on this season. Cedric Coward, though, man, 28 points, 16 rebounds, and 4 assists for the man on 10 of 16 shooting with 2 threes. Fucking insane to watch him play. There's no question that he, even if you may consider VJ Edgecombe or even Con Neupool at this point, is potential rookies of the year. Cooper Flag has probably entered himself back into that conversation, but don't fucking sleep on Cedric Coward, man. Don't sleep on the Washington State product, man. His counterpart, Jalen Wells, also of Washington State, would have 14 points in this game, with some good shots hit across the course of it. Santi Aldama and Jaren Jackson Jr. also had 15 points each, with Jaren Jackson Jr. also adding 12 rebounds on the night. And I'm surprised that he got that many rebounds in the game, but Cedric Coward still out-rebounded him, especially when you consider that Coward had 6 offensive rebounds by himself. It was a crazy one to look at. And then when you come off of a high watching a game like that, then you recognize, oh, okay, it's Pistons-Lakers. For the nightcap in the last game that I would watch in this time span, live at least. Like, oh man. Yes, the narrative was going to surround the fact that it was LeBron's 41st birthday. And you had niggas in the stands literally chanting the fucking song that's gone viral on the internet about him and how he is their sunshine and whatever the fuck. Man, look, bruh. When it comes to the game itself, you didn't see a ton of that. JJ Redick, with an output like that, he was bound to just crash the fuck out. It was terrible, man. I mean, for a while in this game, the Pistons were shooting around like 60% from the fucking field. And yes, you had Luka Doncic get 13 points in the first quarter, but Cade Cunningham was also getting his own way in this game, as he was also put up 10 points in the first quarter himself. But it was legitimately everybody on the Pistons finding a way to carve up this defense. And it's not even the players that you would expect. Like Isaiah Stewart was getting good looks at the rim. You had Duncan Robinson hit a few shots. But it would also be Marcus Sasser and Ron Holland II off of the bench, just getting some of the wildest shots imaginable to go just because they fucking could. Against a Lakers defense that has just been weakened. They were ranked like 29th in the month of December in terms of defensive rating coming into this game, and you saw it. You saw it as this game progressed. Even with them putting up 65 points in the first half, and even with their own offense being able to get some great looks with Jackson Hayes and even Jarrett Vanderbilt hitting three-pointers. Yes, hitting three-pointers. They were still down by 5 points in this one. Still. And it's crazy. They were never able to get it back. It's like their shooting splits were just too fucking insane, and the Lakers were not able to adjust defensively. I will say that, at a point in time, the Lakers made it close as we got into, like, the third quarter. The game was still within arm's length for them to go out and take over. And at a point, Luka Doncic did tie the game after essentially an and one. But from that point forward, it was all Pistons. All Pistons, man. Not only would you have this go on, but essentially in between that and the fourth quarter, they had a long run to getting out to 11 in the first place. And then as the Lakers cut it back down to 9 again, they would proceed to give up a 23-6 run overall and a 15-2 concurrent run in one fell swoop. Because they could not legitimately keep the ball away from the defense. Like, you're just trying to spam up all these dribble moves. Well, the Pistons decided, okay, we're going to start attacking you there. If you're going to keep on putting that ball out, nigga, we're going to get active and get in all the passing lanes. We're going to steal every single dribble attempt that you think you're going to pull off, because we're not going to let that shit fly. And that's how this flurry of points just fucking began for them. And the Lakers at that point, those punches, they were just too great to overcome. With the Pistons winning 128-106 after shooting 63.2% from the field in this game on just 76 shots. So again, if you think that there is something holding the Lakers back, it's that. It's the fact that you allow 30 points off of turnovers. It's the fact that you yourselves can convert off of them while also giving up a damn 31-12 advantage in fast break opportunities for this Detroit team and expect it to win somehow. Cade Cunningham in this game had 27 points, 11 assists, and 5 rebounds on total of 19 shooting. Marcus Sasser had 19 points on 8 shots. Isaiah Stewart had 15 points and shot perfect from the field, while Jalen Duren had 14 points on 6 of 8 shooting. Like, all those guys shot that damn good. You could say, essentially, at that point, the worst fucking shooter in the game was Paul Reed. And he only shot 3 times. Shaz Lanier, the rookie, didn't even take a single shot attempt and still walked his way into 2 points. And only Dennis Jenkins for them would not score a single point. That's how deep the Pistons were playing in this one. And that's how effective they were all night long compared to the damn Lakers. LeBron struggled. Yes, he had 17 points in a solid game. But y'all are trying to hype him up the whole time. Man did not have a great shooting night at all. Luka Doncic, you could say the same case there. I mean, he did get 30 points and 11 assists, but also had 8 turnovers. And also shot 9 of 22 from the field, along with 27% shooting from deep. I mean, you got some solid help from the role players. Jackson Hayes had 13. DeAndre Ayton had 10. You probably want more there. Dalton Connect was in during garbage time, but he also had 10 points. Jared Vanderbilt made 2 fucking 3-pointers. Like, you'd think you'd want to take advantage of that, and you don't even get close. At all. Like, that's just insane, bro. But I digress. So that would do it for all the game action that I have most recently watched. I'm sure there are going to be some games later on today that I'll be able to tune into. Yes. But, at this time, not necessarily, to start out the year. But we'll get there in time. As for some of the other developments here, because there are a lot of them, and they mostly pertain to injury updates and things like that. So to get it started, Ivica Zubac was originally out per Sam Charania for a few weeks with a grade 2 left ankle sprain. It was mentioned, though, that he would return on this Saturday game against the against the Celtics. And he got a minutes restriction. He had 4 points and 7 rebounds off the bench in 21 minutes of play. They're just trying to warm him back up to it. I wouldn't make too much of it, but I would be concerned with the fact that they did lose this game by 31 points while giving up 146 to the fucking Celtics and a 50 piece from Jaylen Brown, along with 5 assists on 18 of 26 shooting with 6 threes, bro. I would be more concerned with that. As Zubac continues to get back into the flow of things, he should be okay. In all seriousness. Brandon Clarke is still out at this point with another setback, a grade 2 right calf strain. So, it's just unfortunate for him, truly. The Grizzlies, with the way that game went against the fucking 76ers, as I mentioned, man, you would want to have somebody that defensive-minded back on your roster to ensure that a big man like Joel Embiid does not have room to go off like that on you. And I mean, it's still Like, of course, in this Lakers game, like, you didn't have DeAndre Ayton do a whole ton, but the Grizzlies were still on the losing end of this one. It just, I know that in his own way, even if it doesn't always show in the box score, Brandon Clarke can affect winning for this roster. You can't, again, that makes him an invaluable player on their team. You want to be able to get him back at some point, but health is the most important thing for him. Herbert Jones has been out with a right sprained ankle per multiple insiders for several games in a row during this time. Can check out this Heat game real quick. And while they would lose this game by 19, they did not have him play at all, as Norm Powell proceeded to go off for 34 points on 11 of 15 shooting with 9 threes. Now, Norm Powell is also a sneaky guy who could be considered for all-star, I suppose, reserve contention. He probably does deserve it. It would be interesting to see how that goes. You could say that he's in the conversation. But I can also say that Herbert Jones would probably be the direct matchup on him. And we know how valuable his defense is to this Pels roster. It will look a little different, that performance, if that was the case. Speaking of the Pelicans in this situation, they would get Jordan Poole back on a minutes restriction, but he was also out for a little while with left ankle soreness. They got him back in this game against the Heat, and he would put up 8 points rather, and 8 assists in 25 minutes of play on 3 of 11 shooting. Typical Jordan Poole splits. That's what it is. But I'm sure he'll be back to proper form when he actually gets his activity ramped up. Cam Whitmore, per Shams Charania, would be out indefinitely with deep vein thrombosis. Same injury that took place with Damian Lillard and the same injury that took place with Victor Wembanyama. So you hope that there is nothing more than that he can actually recover from this and get back to what he wants to do just normally without having to worry about those kinds of things going on in your body. Like, it's horrible. Zach Lavine is set to still be out for at least one more week with an ankle injury for multiple insiders. Jaylin Williams, the Arkansas Jaylin Williams, has been out for a number of these games in a row with heel bursitis per multiple NBA insiders. Jae'Sean Tate. Jae'Sean Tate's an interesting guy. At a point in time, he was out with a left wrist contusion. But as far as this Rockets game against the Mavs is concerned, he played a little bit. He didn't play too much. Granted, he's much further down in the rotation, so he's not going to get a lot of playing time as it is. But in 6 minutes, he had 3 points and a rebound against the Mavericks in a loss by 6 on Saturday. Let me see. Okay, Josh Giddey would be out with a left hamstring injury, and he's set to miss at least the next few weeks. So that is definitely going to take even more of a hit to a Bulls team that, as of the recording of this video, despite a slide, the Bulls are in playoff contention. They're the 9th seed. And to have him miss that much time in a row could hurt them, especially when you consider how great of a playmaker he is for this team. Even if the scoring is not always there for him, it doesn't need to be when you are getting others fed. And they're going to struggle with that a little bit. But the way that Trey Jones had played in that 76ers game in relief, if you can get him to elevate to a starting caliber guy, enough, and have Kobe White, I assume, take over the mantle, you may be able to manage and come out with a fair enough record while he's out. Tyler Hero is still out with a toe injury. He re-aggravated and hasn't really... It's crazy to see. Man, you're banking on him getting healthy for that point, and it just hasn't happened for him. But again, the Heat did win yesterday, so they are still figuring it out. They're 20-16. They have Norm Powell doing all of this, so they're finding a way, and that's what matters the most. Gary Trent Jr. would be out for a little bit with a calf injury, And as far as this game against the Kings is concerned for the Bucks, he would return and put up 13 points on 4 of 8 shooting from deep and from the field overall, en route to what would be a 17-point victory for the Bucks with a score of 115-98. John Collins was out for a few games in this stretch with an illness, but he would return in the same game against the Celtics and put up 22 points in 29 minutes of play, along with 2 rebounds, and shot 9 of 10 from the field, with making all 3 of his 3-pointers as well. The only bright spot on an otherwise terrible night for everyone else involved on that team. Khris Middleton would be out for a while in a stretch with a knee injury as well, but he would recently return to action in a game yesterday against the Timberwolves, where they stood absolutely no chance whatsoever. I don't even know how the Wizards are at 9 wins right now. But they got blown out in this game, and Khris Middleton in 18 minutes of play had 10 points on 4 of 6 shooting with 2 threes. Honestly, not the worst in the world, but not enough to keep up with that kind of game from the Timberwolves. Like, it was just, man. Oh my gosh. My goodness gracious. Okay. Miles Bridges would be out for a while in this with an ankle injury as well, and did miss a recent game against the Warriors, where the Warriors ended up winning that one in an absolute shootout, where Con Neuple went out and off again, and LaMelo Ball was actually efficient from the field. They probably would have wanted him there, but hell, they got back in this Saturday game against the Bulls, and, regardless of Josh Giddey being out or not, there's no way that the Bulls allow Miles Bridges, a man who is typically, whenever he's the leading scorer of a Hornets squad, is inefficient as hell, and it ultimately results in them losing the ball game. They won this game by 13, Charlotte did, with Miles Bridges getting 26 points and 14 boards. And he had a single turnover in this game, mind you, on 11 of 18 shooting, with 3 3-pointers. If only that was more consistent from Miles fucking Bridges, the Hornets would be a lot more dangerous. And I guess they are ascending that way with how some of their wings have been playing. But what the hell? Like, seriously? Then you'd get some very terrible news here, especially if you are a Nuggets fan, as over the course of a recent game that the Nuggets had against, I believe, it was, the Heat, against the Heat on December 29th, they got smoked out completely by 24 points, and the Heat put up 147 on them. But there was a rationale for that, as during the game, you would have Nikola Jokic go out with a hyperextended left knee, and he is now set to miss the next 4 weeks from that point. It is a devastating injury for a team like the Nuggets to be dealing with, but at the same time, although it is pretty revealing, they lost to the Nuggets, the Nuggets lost to the Nets, yesterday by 12? It does truly give Jamal Murray a chance to step up, and to his credit, he did have 27 points and 16 assists in this game. So he can take a lot more of the load in this, but obviously you're missing out on having the gravity of a 3-time MVP and dominant all-around force at center, especially with him being an offensive engine. It's going to hurt the Nuggets a little bit. Maybe not too badly, though. At this point, as of the recording of this video, their record of 23-12 puts them squarely in the 4 seed. So I don't know if there would be that much of a drop-off, but obviously you want Nikola Jokic to recover and get healthy again to ultimately lead this team in the way that he does best. Further than the injury itself, I think this is a good thing, and this is where, I started to really take things after hearing about this. This is exactly where you begin to question just how much merit this 65 game rule is really going to hold for the NBA, especially whenever the next round of CBA negotiations comes in. Because this shit, with the way that this is trending, between the number of star caliber players that have gotten hurt this season already and the number of players that are already out, they're going to have to do away with it. I mean, the intent in the first place was to punish the select group of players who were known to be out for load management consistently. And I do understand it. You want your players to be out there on the court playing if you're having these teams invest in them as assets. And when you don't, it can hurt the product. And as a result, you, with the 65 game rule, if you don't cross that threshold, if you don't meet those requirements, you don't qualify for any awards. No, like All-Star is different, but no selections on any All-NBA teams or anything like that. Any of the Defensive Player of the Year, MVP awards like that, you don't qualify for them at all if you don't meet those standards that they uphold in this given rule. And I will say the thing about that is that you do get some pretty interesting guys to replace said people if they truly don't meet those requirements. It does add a little bit of intrigue to some of these rewards. Yeah, it can get repetitive at times to see the same few players on a given All-NBA team, or the same few players get a particular award individually on a year-to-year basis. Like, as much as people wanted to hate on Jaylin Williams being an All-NBA third-team selection last season, it was pretty intriguing to see a change of pace there. And you can't deny that. Especially, if there are some players here who will miss out on those requirements due to injuries, you're going to have a good wave of players to choose from in terms of All-NBA selections and things like that to take their place. There are a number of guys. There's so much talent around the league, especially when you look at the younger talent, that could deserve a shot and may not get it in a perfect world when you have all those guys out there. So it does incentivize an effort to go out there and relentlessly put your best foot forward as a player. But at the same time, with the way that some of these injuries have been, the fact that a lot of them are lower body, leg injuries, and things like that, like, the season is long. And it's clear that in some ways, for certain players, it is taking a massive strain on them. And especially when you look at the older players out there, the Kawhi Leonards of the world, the James Hardens, for a while, of the world, the Joel Embiids of the world, the way that their bodies have become over time as they age, they may very well need the rest to recuperate in an effective enough manner and truly have the best versions of themselves going out there and playing. I mean, for a while, you look at Embiid specifically, man was barely able to move. Yet he has to go out there and play, even with knowing that he won't qualify for any awards. And I don't know if he would be up for any. Then you have a ton of these other guys, between Victor Wembanyama, who was also dealing with a slight hyperextension of his own, although he's confirmed to be okay, per Shams Charania. So that's a different scenario entirely. But Nikola Jokic is in danger of missing this threshold if he misses enough games to knock him away from qualifying for a 65-game threshold. Giannis is in danger of that, although I think he's slightly over the mark if he plays the rest of the season. Victor Wembanyama's in danger of it. And while, again, you can't necessarily disregard the talent that is coming through and performing at a high level, an elite level, across the entire year, that can be a good thing, to have some other guys get good looks for themselves throughout an NBA season, instead of, the normal cast of characters. But at the same time, Jokic, Wembanyama, and Giannis are all having exceptionally great seasons when they are playing. We just saw what the fuck Nikola Jokic did. We just talked about it a few days before that injury. We saw how Victor Wembanyama started out the season and how it is still going for him, even as he's just trying to ramp his way back up into the normal flow of the game. And Giannis is coming back and still dominating. Like, he literally had a 28-point double-double or something like that in the very last game that they played yesterday. So they are still dominant. They're still putting up a great and truly unmatched contribution to other players in the NBA. And just because of injuries that you are having happen as a result of forcing this kind of strain on them, they're not going to be able to get these awards. Like, they value a lot, or hold a lot of value to these guys. So naturally, if you're telling them that, hey, if you don't meet this, we're not going to give it to you. Well, they're going to be forced to play in that scenario. And it can truly take a physical toll on them. And yet they are punished for that. It works against them. Not helping them in the slightest. But of course, the worry's more about the brand in that scenario. And I don't know how much longer that can last. Like, you're looking at all three of those seasons, and you're telling any NBA fan, whether you're a casual or hardcore fan, that in a perfect scenario, none of those guys would even get any All-NBA team selection. None of those guys would be considered any of a Defensive Player of the Year or an MVP or anything like that. They'd be out of the running completely because of things that cannot be controlled and are actively being influenced by the very desire to have them play more than that in the first place and demand it or else. So I just, that's going to have to change around by the next, negotiation process. Because I don't know how you could get in situations like that and really expect this to stick around for a longer period of time. Like, truly. Like, that just put everything into perspective. You're telling me that you just saw what the fuck Jokic did on Christmas a few days ago, and because of him being hurt in this situation, and granted, Jokic, even with his weight, like, he's not necessarily overweight, but he's been a lot more durable than most players, and his ass is still in danger of completely missing out on award selections entirely. No. Fuck no. Gotta take yourself seriously in that scenario. Egor Demin of the Nets would be out for a little bit with a back injury, but again, the Nets managed to win 127 to 115 yesterday, and he was back for this game. He had 13 points on 5 of 9 shooting with 3 threes. The interesting thing with Egor Demin is that he has honestly been a decent player for the Nets, but they restrict him mostly to spacing out from the perimeter and shooting 3-point shots. I mean, granted, that was a strength of his coming out of BYU, and he is going to have to learn in time how to take shots within the flow of an offense before he can begin to develop into a player that starts free-forming and controlling an offense under his own volition. Because I will say again, at BYU, he was a young freshman coming in, just a year of experience in college. And while he was able to take over a few games, there were times where he did struggle to just really make a lot of sense with his shot selection. Like, the offense would be in his control, but he would take some of the wildest shots imaginable. And I'm scratching my head as I'm watching some of these BYU games go down to the wire. And he just shoots the weirdest shot, makes the wildest decision imaginable in a given moment. And you just can't have that. Given the Nets' strengths lie elsewhere, especially with Michael Porter Jr. being in consideration via All-Star voting, you're not going to see him command the ball a ton. So I guess you're just going to have to be accustomed to him taking majority of his shots from the perimeter. But he's making them at a pretty efficient clip. And on the entire season, he's averaging 9.9 points, along with 3.3 rebounds and 3.4 assists per game. He has an effective field goal percentage of 51.7, and he is also, from the three-point line, shooting 37.2%. Not half bad at all for them. I'm just still shocked how the fuck they beat the Nuggets, though. Like, yes, no Jokic, I'm sure that would be completely different, but damn, like, really? Okay. Keyonte George would be questionable with an illness, but would play in the Saturday game against the Warriors, in which the Dubs won 123 to 114. So that's always great to see. Keyonte George himself had 22 points and 9 assists on 7 of 18 shooting with 4 threes, although he did have 7 turnovers. But Keyonte George this season has also been a guy who, via All-Star voting, is definitely in consideration, with having 24.5 points, 4.2 rebounds, and 6.9 assists per game on the season. He's been riding a hot streak the last few games, and it has vaulted him into a very great consideration from there. He's also shooting 90% from the line, while shooting 45% from the field and 37.7% from deep, by far the best splits of his young career. And he's only like 22 years old. Hey, bro. Like, he is truly ascending. And you do love to see that as the Jazz remain to be competitive, despite not really having the record to show for it just yet. So that's always good to see. Jalen Duren would be dealing with a right ankle sprain for a little bit of time, and while the Pistons would take center stage yesterday against the Cavs, they would win by 4 with a final score of 114 to 110. As for him, I do believe that he was able to go in this game. Oh, well, no. But in his place, they had Isaiah Stewart and Paul Reed start together. Most of their work came from off the bench. Cade Cunningham would lead them in scoring, but it would be Dennis Jenkins yet again with another just microwave performance on his end. I mean, hell, you remember the damn overtime thriller, double overtime thriller, in fact, the Pistons had against the Wizards. Simply because of Dennis Jenkins hitting the game to send them to that very point earlier in the season. He would have 25 points on 6 of 7 shooting from deep and 7 of 10 overall in this game, off the bench in 25 minutes of play, along with 5 assists. Hey, I guess no Jalen Duren, a little bit of a problem when it comes to those guys. Paul Reed and Isaiah Stewart, I think Stewart won Defensive Player of the Month for the Eastern Conference with his rim protection, but he's still on the smaller end. And so is Paul Reed. So when you're dealing with fucking Evan Mobley and Jared Allen on the other end, that's going to cause a problem, okay? But they managed through it all. And Derrick Jones Jr., unfortunately, is going to miss yet another 6 weeks of action at least, with the same grade 2 right MCL sprain. They mentioned Hersham Charania. He suffered it in the exact same manner, in a freak way, freak accident type of situation, against the Celtics again. And I don't know why that is. He honestly had a fine game as he played and was healthy, shooting 8 of 9 from the field, along with 3 threes for 19 points and 4 rebounds on the night. But, man, and they just got him back. They just got him back. And now they're going to lose him again in the same way. That's highly unfortunate, man. I truly hope that whenever he's able to come back and return, he's actually 100% and ready to go. Man, that's unfortunate. It's been a great season for him overall when he has been on the floor. But it's yet another situation that just explains why the Clippers have been where they're at. Although they have started to turn around as of late during the stretch. It's like, man, those injuries are tough to really overcome for a team that is the oldest in the NBA. And here you have a younger guy in Derrick Jones Jr. being able to contribute in this way, and you don't have those services anymore. Definitely tough. So, I mean, that'll do it for the developments there. I mean, quick update running through the overall conference standings. I mean, you have the Pistons and the Thunder still at the top, but the Thunder have fallen to 30-6, with the Spurs being in second place behind them. The Lakers, Nuggets, and Rockets round out the top 5. And the Timberwolves also have a pretty good 23-13 record at this point, but from 7 down to, you could even say 12 at this point for the Western Conference, it's chaos. Hasn't been atypical since the play-in format has been established. Like, the 8 through 12 is especially close. Like, only 7 games separate the 8 and 12 seeds. So that's just utterly ridiculous. Even 13, with the Jazz and Clippers holding the same 12-22 record. As for the Eastern Conference, the Pistons are 26-9 at this point, while the Knicks and Celtics are neck and neck with nearly identical records at this point of time. And it's crazy to think that, man, you thought that the Celtics, man, were going to have a down year and potentially a rebuilding year after losing a superstar like Jae'Sean Tatum. But as we mentioned with Jaylen Brown's 50-piece, and not to mention what Derek White's been able to do complimenting him, what Peyton Pritchard's been able to do off the bench, what Jordan Walsh and some of those other young guys off the bench have been able to contribute as spark plug players, they are right where they want to be in the conversation for contention in the Eastern Conference, despite that. The Raptors are also pretty shocking, with them being 21-15. Scotty Barnes could be all-star player. Could be. The nigga pulled down 25 boards against the Warriors in a recent game against them. Man, the Warriors need a fucking center. But that's truly a great player doing good things for a Raptors squad. Brandon Ingram has been clutch for them at multiple points. Emmanuel Quickly's been hitting some good shots for them, and off the bench, they've gotten great contributions from guys like Colin Murray Boyles, like Grady Dick, and others. So that's definitely helping them right now. The 76ers have gotten back to some winning ways recently. They're the 5 seed. And then from there, you have the Magic, Heat, Cavs, Bulls, and Hawks rounding out the top 10. Reminder that Trae Young has really put himself in a bit of a pickle. They have lost every single game that Trae Young had appeared in since he'd returned from his injury. And they've been on a little bit of a losing streak at this point. So I don't know, especially when you have what Jalen Johnson has been doing, when you take into account what Dyson Daniels has been doing. Nickeil Alexander-Walker's been great off the bench for them. Like, you really have to question if there is room for Trae Young here or not. You have multiple people throwing out trade rumors about him and everything. So I really don't know how this would end up going for him. The Bucks are on the fringe. And then from there, the Hornets, the Nets, the Wizards, and the damn Pacers, man. It's tough. The Pacers have by far the worst record in the NBA. And, you know, again, it's tough. It's always tough when you have a superstar player in Tyrese Halliburton being out for the season like this. But they just have not been able to figure it out whatsoever. And that's understandable. That's fair. So again, the next time you want to go out and disrespect Tyrese Halliburton and his contributions, I mean, bro, look no further than what is happening without him. Even with the guys that are still there. Like, it's not like Andrew Nembhard, Pascal Siakam, and Benedict Mathurin are bad players by any stretch of the imagination. You still have T.J. McConnell doing T.J. McConnell things off the bench. But the entire flow of that team just shifts. There is a gravity that Tyrese Halliburton clearly possesses, and you started to see that throughout that entire playoff run last year. But again, they knew this was going to be the case. They like, it can't really surprise people. You just have to understand from that point. But that'll do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.